Good morning, everyone. We have the pleasure today to have in our office the co-founder and executive director at a farm less ordinary, Greg Mascucci.
Hi.
Which is last name Italian.
Italian, yes.
We love Italian food. Greg, we're so excited for you to be here today.
I'm excited to be here.
And thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you for inviting me.
We want to know a little bit about your history,
Sure.
Bio about you, please, and let us know, how did you start this awesome organization? What was the idea? What got you to open?
So in 2007, my wife and I had a beautiful baby boy, and then in 2010 he was diagnosed with autism, and we, were obviously pretty thrown by his diagnosis. We didn't have any experience with that, but we started looking at how that might present itself and what kind of challenges he might have in the future. And the one that I think stuck in our mind the most is that we saw what we thought was a kind of a typical cycle where kids they'd be in special education, and then when you're in special ed, you can actually go to school until you age out at 22. But then when kids age out at 22, they often sort of just disappear, in the sense that they are, especially in Loudoun County, most of these kids can't drive. 65% of people on the autism spectrum cannot drive, and with other intellectual developmental disabilities, something we call IDDs, that percentage is even higher. And in Loudoun County, if you can't drive, you're kind of stuck at home, basically. Unless you have a caregiver, a parent, or somebody who's going to drive you around. And also, unfortunately, the parents, even though they know that day is coming, if they're lucky enough to have two parents, Loudoun County is a very expensive county to live in, and sometimes one of those people has to quit their job because there's a lot of two-working family households in Loudoun County. A lot of times somebody has to quit their job. That puts a lot of financial pressure on the families. So now they're really stuck at home because he can't drive. The person, they may not have the same financial resources they had, so they can't really afford to do anything. So there's a lot of social isolation that occurs as a result. And also people stuck at home, they lead very sedentary lives. And with the sedentary lifestyle comes, some terrible health outcomes. So there's high rates of obesity within our community, and there's high rates of hypertension, high rates of diabetes. So my wife and I thought, well, how can you sort of intervene in that, what I call a negative spiral, right? And we just felt like employment was the real linchpin, because when you're employed, you're out of the house, you're working. It gives the caregivers a break, because as much as you love your children, spending 24/7 every second of the day with your child, particularly a child who might have some challenging behaviors, can be challenging in and of itself. So we figured, well, we'll get the person with disability out of the house, get them working, give their caregiver a break. Sometimes those caregivers can go out and get a part-time job, or even a full-time job if there's some flexibility on hours, so that it restores the income to the household. And more importantly, for the person with the disability, they a lot of times end up socially isolated, because high school was kind of their last time they were interacting with other kids their age. And so what people don't realize is that work is people's primary social conduit after you leave school, for everybody. Like most people, it's funny, a lot of times people collect a friend from each job they've had. Their friends are people that they worked with over the years. And so when people are not working, they don't have that same connection. So our mission statement is to provide employment, it's to provide job skills training, and a welcoming community. And we view that as like a three-legged stool. All those legs are very important. And honestly, if I had to pick the most important leg, I might even say the welcoming community part, because everybody should be able to connect with people. Loneliness is at epidemic proportions in this country as it is, and it doesn't really need to be that way, and it certainly doesn't for this community. And we also think that when you integrate our folks into our community, I think everybody's better off, because I believe in diversity of thought and opinion and everything. And these guys bring a unique perspective. When I'm working at the farm, there isn't a day goes by that they don't make me laugh about something, because they think of it in a different way than maybe I would think of it. And they're just funny. They have a different way of looking at the world, and I think we could all learn a little bit from that.
Yeah.
And also, they inspire me, because some of these people are facing challenges you and I could scarcely imagine. If you woke up every day and you had difficulty communicating simple things like what you wanted for breakfast, or you had difficulty making friendships, or difficulty even looking somebody in the eye, or all these challenges that they face on a daily basis, and they have the courage to get through the day and get a job and do their best. it's pretty cool. I mean, I feel honored to be associated with that, and I also feel, you don't go into nonprofit for the money, but you can't put a price on the feeling of having real impact in people's lives. We have 30 employees, and I feel like, my wife and I have been able to have a positive impact in these 30 lives, plus our other staff, but 30 people who have IDDs who work for us, and we have volunteers who have IDDs as well, intellectual developmental disabilities. And being able to have impact in their lives is probably the most precious thing I have, other than my kids and my wife.
When did you start? What year you start LS? Farm Less Ordinary?
We had lived in the city in Capitol Hill in DC, and we were actually pretty confirmed city people. Lived in cities most of my life, but it was difficult to manage our son in the city. He was a little bit of an eloper. He'd take off, kind of thing, which is pretty common at that age for autistic kids. And I was terrified because we lived next to a busy street.
Yeah.
And I remember very vividly, I came and bought some groceries, and I had like a grocery bag in one hand, and I had his hand in the other, and he had sort of broken free from me, and he started running toward Florida Avenue. And thankfully, he had little legs, so I dropped my groceries on Chase Avenue, and I got to him well before he got to the street. But Florida Avenue, people regularly drive like 40, 50 miles an hour, and if you got hit by a car, you could have died. And I just said to my wife that day, I said, "We're moving," and she's like, "Okay." And I'm a realtor, so I physically looked at 1,000 houses. I physically went into 1,000 houses in 6 states. DC.
Wow.
I believe since in DC, Virginia, and Maryland, and I was in North Carolina. And we also looked in Tennessee, Pennsylvania. We looked like all over the...
Wow.
We're just kind of trying to find home. It's a Goldilocks thing, right? To find the place that we wanted to call home. And we thought we wanted to have some land, just kind of give us a buffer in case Max got out of the house and ran. We wanted him to not be able to run into a street. So at first we were like, oh, we'll get someplace with like half an acre or something. And then we ended up having like maybe 2 acres, maybe 3 acres. So we ended up buying a house, a sort of fixer-upper, because I'm pretty handy, on 25 acres in Bloomont, Virginia, was where we originally lived. And we had been pretty involved in special education advocacy in DC before we left, because the special ed system was pretty abysmal. And we with some other motivated parents in the Children's Law Center and some other motivated folks, we helped push through a lot of pretty sweeping reforms. And we were super proud of that, and we felt like, hey, you can make a difference. One person can make a difference. And that's really what does make a difference in the world, is one or two motivated people can, move mountains, right? And so we got a first taste of advocacy from that, and we closed on the house in October of 2014, and we were very excited. And we said, oh, so now what are we going to do? We want to do something for this community. We kicked around ideas, and we really settled on employment. We thought employment was the real linchpin, as I mentioned. So we drew this idea on the back of a napkin in a Thai restaurant about, well, we didn't have that much money. We'd saved like $50,000 to put towards this, which sounds like a lot of money, but when you're starting a business, that's nothing. But we suddenly had a bunch of land. We never had land before. We used to having a postage stamp size yard, and so we're like, yeah, we'll use the land. Then we wrote this idea, we'll come up with a farm, and we'll employ people with intellectual developmental disabilities on the farm. It'll be great. And we finished it all. We were very excited, and then we were like, yeah, it's great, except we don't even have house plants. So we didn't know anything about farming, like nothing, zero. We didn't have any farming in our background. None of our family farmed. But fortunately, nobody told us we couldn't do it, so we're can-do people. And I think, retrospectively, it's probably good. Sometimes it's good what you don't know, because if we knew how hard it would be, maybe we wouldn't have done it. But then since we didn't know, since we were foolish enough to be like, sure, we can do this, right? But can-do attitude will carry you pretty far, So what's cool about farming is when you, if you're trying to learn a new business, like a lot of times the classes are really expensive and everything. Whereas farming, there's all these great free resources, like the U.S. Department of Agriculture and the Virginia Department of Agriculture. And they have these guys called extension agents, and they were all amazing. So we took all these free classes, and we just developed ourselves to everything we could to learn as much as we could. So that was in 2014. We wrote the idea on the back of a napkin. We made a pact with each other. We said, okay, we'll try to grow vegetables in 2015, and if we're successful, then we'll launch this nonprofit. But if we're not successful, we tried. Right? So we had a very successful harvest, and we donated most of it to the Lab Hunger Relief and to the Laws, the Law and Abuse Women's Shelter, and some other nonprofits. And we were like, okay, we were successful, so we decided that was 2015. So we launched our nonprofit in January of 2016. We hired our first 4 growers, people with intellectual developmental disabilities. We call them growers. It's like a triple entendre because they're growing vegetables, but they're growing their skill sets and they're growing their confidence. So it's it's in as many meanings the term grower. So they start out as growers, and then you can be a peer leader when you can teach others to do a task. And then if you get really good,
So you grow basically.
Yeah, you grow. Yeah, you're growing. You're growing into your different positions. You're growing your skill sets.
Yeah.
You're growing your confidence because I'll tell you, for a lot of these people, unfortunately, they're told because of their disability, they're told oftentimes like, oh, you can't do this or you can't do that because you have a disability, and so they have a real depletion of self-confidence when they come to us a lot of times. So what we do is we jokingly say we're in the incremental confidence building game, right? Because like you make them successful. So one of the first tasks is you seed these trays. Because we grow everything from seeds in our greenhouse. We started as a seed and we grow it when we transplant it from our little thing. So there's 64 cell trays. So we start planting seeds. We make them successful at that, and then when you give them a new task, we make them successful at that. And as you do that, you're building up their confidence incrementally. And then after a while, they'll say, "Hey, what else can I do?" And that's really cool when you can see the transformation.
They want to grow.
Yeah,
So you guys.
and you can see like even people they just want to be given an opportunity. Everybody wants a chance, and I think it's amazing what people can do when they're given a chance.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of how we do it.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about the different program you have.
Sure.
Because you are huge. I mean, when we went to visit
Yeah.
you do a lot.
Yes.
So talk to us a little bit about the programs.
So we our primary focus is to create employment, and we do that through farming. And so what the farm has 3 sort of sources of revenue. Well, 2 sources of revenue, but 3 distribution channels. So we do the farmers market on Saturdays in Leesburg.
Okay.
The downtown Leesburg market's on Catoctin Circle. Right now, that parking lot's under a lot of construction because they're doing a lot of stuff. So a lot of people don't even realize the farmers market's there, but we're there on Saturdays. It's from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. So we're there every Saturday, and that gives us an opportunity for those who are capable of to practice their math skills and to practice doing a retail operation and to practice public-facing skills and to act appropriately in public. Everything we do, we're trying to build the skill sets.
It looks to me kind of like you're developing.
Yeah, we're developing
people.
talent in a sense. Yeah, and to us, we want to make the best employee we can. That's our. So not somebody who's just successful at the farm, but somebody who'll be successful in any employment environment because they know what's required. What employers are looking for.
Yeah.
And to us, when somebody starts with us and then they go on to another job, and we've had people go, as I mentioned to you before, we had somebody who was at the tarmac at Dulles with the orange flashlights guiding planes, and he started out as a guy who had not a whole lot of self-confidence, and he was with us, spent two years with us, or maybe 2.5.
So you're changing life for better.
Changing lives for the better, and giving people opportunities to make their lives better for themselves.
Absolutely. And be confident.
Yes, and be confident.
Put the confidence on them.
And I really believe, I'm like it's a biblical saying, but if you give a man a fish, he eats for a day, but if you teach a man to fish, he eats forever, right? So we're trying to build them the skills to foster as much independence as they can have. Some of our folks may not be able to live on their own, but at least they can bring in a paycheck. They can feel like they're contributing to society in whatever way they can. And I think we all innately want to feel contributory to society in some way. I think that some of our sense of self-worth comes from that. I know I like to be really productive, and when I'm being productive, I feel really good, and when I'm less productive, I feel not as good. So I think that people also innately want to have a connection with other people. There's a saying that comes from the ARC where they say, what do people with intellectual developmental disabilities want? They call it ALLY, A-L-L-Y, which is a life like yours. They want a life like yours. They want to have relationships. They want to have friendships. They want to have a job that they get to go to, that they care about, and they derive some meaning from that. And that's all they want. Same as you and I. And so we try to give them the opportunity to create that for themselves and to give them more opportunities by trying to build their skill sets. So maybe they don't want to be a farmer forever. That's fine. They'll be able to find a different job, and we're happy when they do that. So we've had a lot of people come through and now are working as landscapers. They work in coffee shops, or they do different things. Many of whom had never worked before at all. So
what ages ranges they can start with you guys?
So we partner with the Loudoun County Public School System. They have the school system through IDEA law. IDEA governs special education law. It stands for Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. So that IDEA Act says that when kids turn 15, the school system is supposed to promote transition to work, and because some of these kids may not be able to go to college or may not be able to get secondary skills. So the mandate is to sort of transition them toward work. So they have certain programs. One of them is called CAST, which stands for Communities and Schools Together. We've gotten quite a few students from that. And then another one's called Project Search. And so sometimes they send buses to the farm, and we work with them, and they're volunteering at that time. But like one of our oldest longest running employees, his name is, I'll just call him Jack. He started with us when he's 15, and now he's going to be 22, I think, soon. And he started coming in from Loudoun County program. He came in through a program like CAST, right?
Yeah.
And or it might have been through Clark County, but I think it was Loudoun County. But anyway, so we've gotten a lot of our employees through that. So they started out as maybe a volunteer through this high school program through Loudoun County, and now they work for us full time. Well, I mean, I should say full time. So our normal work schedule is we work 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. because we're trying to beat that summer heat, and then we do Saturday farmers market. So most people work about 20 hours, maybe a little bit more.
And is this a seasonally, Greg, or what happened on the winter?
Oh, so we since my wife and I started, my wife is Maya Wexler. She's the co-founder. She's amazing, and I want to make sure I give her credit, because credit where credit is due. I love you, Maya. So we realized farming was seasonal, and unfortunately, it's a population that has a 74% unemployment. 74%. That's really high compared to the regular unemployment rate. So we know that if we get to the point of the season where we have to lay people off, it's unlikely they're going to find another job.
Absolutely.
So we've been working really hard ever since we started. We've been working really hard about trying to mitigate that seasonality factor. So we've done several things. So we use what are called high tunnels, which is like sometimes they call them caterpillar tunnels because they look kind of like a caterpillar, because they're arched, and they have fabric stretched over them, and they retain a lot of heat, and that helps us extend our growing season. So it helps us to start earlier and grow later in the season. And then we actually have 2 heated greenhouses, which we try to use the propane sparingly because it's a greenhouse gas. But we operate them to keep things at germination temperature. So we actually work our regular schedule from about between February 1st and February 15th, depending on how cold it is, all the way through to Thanksgiving.
Oh, wow.
And then we go to winter hours starting December 1st, and we're on winter hours from December 1st to about February. Yeah, and so then we're on, right now we're on a 6-hour work week. We're hoping to bring that to 9 if we can get the funding, just because we want them to be able to maintain their social connections. Yeah. And we make jams and jellies. That's one of our cool products.
I got them, I tried it, and it's so good.
Yeah, we're really proud of that. And that has, again, with like many things that my wife and I have sort of engineered into this, is we want things that are going to build skills in our employees that are transferable. So one of the vertical markets we're interested in, besides cleaning, is we're kind of interested in the hospitality industry because it has a high turnover, and people with IDDs, intellectual developmental disabilities, they actually have a really high loyalty and high job retention rate. So they're more likely to spend more time on the job, and they don't have as much turnover as other people. So it could be good for those industries. So when we're making jams and jellies, we're operating in a commercial kitchen. We're kind enough to have local churches let us use their kitchens, because they have commercial kitchens. You have to have that designation to make a product in them. And so we're teaching them kitchen skills, how to follow a recipe, how to work with hot things, a hot stove, all the safety involved in that. And so, the idea is that maybe they could be plugged into a restaurant or hotel or whatever in the hospitality industry. They would have some of the skill sets they're looking for. So, we try to look for things that are transferable to other employment. but there are people who work for us who probably would not necessarily, I should say, I don't want to be negative, but would be very difficult for them to be successful in the competitive employment realm. And so for those folks, we're a place for them as well.
Yeah.
And we always have a place for them. So we have a mix. So to those that can, we try to build their skill sets to get them to a point where if they want to leave the farm, they can, and there will be opportunities for them to do so. And then the other ones who maybe we can't bring along the continuum to that degree, we're still investing in them. We're still trying to get them to build as many skills as they can, and maybe at some point in the future they'll be able to leave the farm if that's what they choose to do. But the point is that when you invest in people and you invest in the time and you believe in them, magical things can happen.
Absolutely.
And do. I've seen it.
And I hope this mentality will be in any businesses
Sure.
in the county,
Yeah.
because that's I live on this.
Yes.
That's opportunity you give to your employee first.
Yes.
Right.
And that's probably why you've been so successful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Because you always have invested in people and you've invested in your community just by all the different things you do. I see you everywhere. Every time I'm out at some kind of nonprofit function, you're there.
Yeah.
And that's
thank you.
really cool.
Thank you, Greg.
So thank you.
So Greg, from the time you start the business, I know that you probably have succeeded in a lot of accomplishment, but is there any accomplishment you did you are so proud of?
I think I'm most proud of our employees. I mean, some of them came to us, like I said, with a real depletion of confidence, and some of them have gone through a lot of challenges to get to the point where they're able to do some of the jobs they're doing. They couldn't do them at first, and we built them up to the point where they can. We have a position called crew leader, which was always in the past was always neurotypical people filling that job, and people were like, oh, somebody with an IDD could never do that job. And I'm proud to say that both of our crew leaders now are people who have intellectual developmental disabilities. They're both on the autism spectrum, and people are like, oh, they could never do that. They're doing just fine, thank you very much, and doing kind of an amazing job. So I'm super proud of that. That lets me know that it's working.
Yeah.
And then I have a little bit of a miracle story, which people tend to like. And so my son, he's nonverbal, he's non-speaking autistic, and he talked until he was about 3, and then he stopped talking. Largely, he had very, his little bit of unintelligible speech, and then he was kind of a black box for like 10 years. And then when he was 13, my wife started working with him on a communications protocol called rapid prompting method. Kids spell things out one letter at a time on the letterboard, and became very proficient very quickly. And by October of that year, he wrote an essay that we sent to the New York Times Middle Schoolers essay contest, and on 12,800 entries, he came in runner-up, like second.
Wow!
Yeah. And this is a kid that we were told had an IQ by NIH, no less than NIH. So he had an IQ of between 45 and 50, which we didn't believe. But when enough people with lots of initials behind their name tell you that, as a parent, you start to wonder if you're just looking through rose-colored glasses, like maybe they're right, but we didn't think they were right, but we had enough people tell you that, you start to just wonder yourself, right? So it was sort of proof to us that he did have there was a whole lot going on up there in his head that he just wasn't able to communicate, and I think so. I think the coolest thing is that we always believed in this population that if you gave them the same opportunity that you give to other people, you invest in time and energy and effort into it, and you give them opportunities and you believe in them, that great things could happen. And he's proof of that. So, he's our proof. He's a message from our heart that that's true, And sorry,
It's
but
okay.
and my son, I get very emotional about my son, but so he told us how proud he was of us, and that what we were doing was the right thing, and there's no greater endorsement than that, I think.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, I'm probably the thing I'm most proud of.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's always the best things is our kids, right?
Yes.
That's how
Yes.
it starts.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because I can see your passion, your heart, and your soul with developing other people, children,
Yes.
right? But it's in the end of the day, it starts with your son.
Yes.
Right.
He's the
that's what
inspiration.
it is.
Yeah,
This
absolutely.
He's your legacy and your
Yeah,
inspiration.
yeah,
too.
yeah.
Absolutely. Talk to us about events during the year. Do
Sure.
you do any events
So we have two big events. We have a music festival that's generally sort of the end of May. We're still working on the date for next year. And then our signature event is called Feast in the Field, and it's a true farm to table experience. So people always talk about farm to table, at restaurants, but we literally set up the tables at the farm. So it doesn't get more farm to table than that. And we have a big tent, and we light it up with all these really cool cafe lights. And we have a band who does the music, and our growers, the people that work for us and grow all the food, they actually serve the food. And we have an amazing chef, Chef Eric Fox. He's from the Polished Fox. He does mobile kitchen stuff, and his food is amazing. He's gotten a standing ovation from us, from the people in attendance a couple times. And he makes these incredible. I think this year it's a 4-course meal that he makes. And I don't have I wish I had the menu with me, but it's going to be fantastic. It's on September 13th, which is a Saturday. Saturday, September 13th. And we're looking for sponsors. People can buy a table,
absolutely.
or they can buy a ticket, buy a table. One of a kind event, true farm to table, fantastic food, great wine, great company. Money goes to a fantastic cause. You mentioned some other programs, so and on top of Farmers Market, we also have what's called a CSA program. CSA is an acronym, stands for Community Supported Agriculture. And basically, because farming is kind of a front-loaded enterprise expense-wise, like farmers spend all their money at the beginning of the year, and then they often wait to get paid back, because the harvest comes later. So as a way to sort of mitigate that expense imbalance, they create a CSA. So it's a membership model. So people give you a lump sum of money at the beginning of the year, and that entitles them to a box of fresh vegetables once a week during the growing season, or once every other week. So we have a weekly share or a bi-weekly share, because it's enough vegetables for about 4 people. And so we have a weekly share or bi-weekly share, so once a week, once every other week. We also do flower shares, CSA shares for flowers, and we have a summer one and we have a fall one as well. So that's another program of ours, and then we also donate thousands of pounds of food to local food pantries. Depending on who's in need, we sort of shift, and we've actually planted more this year because we're anticipating there might be more need because SNAP benefits are being cut, so there's probably going to be a lot more need out there. So we planted more food with the anticipation that there will be more need, and we want to try to make sure that the food pantries have enough fresh vegetables.
Any plan to expand, Greg, at some point?
So we are currently at our location. We're on Gleesville Road in about maybe 5 miles south of downtown Leesburg. Which is sort of parallel with Route 15, and it's a 22.5 acre parcel, and our plan is to buy that from the current owners. We are only farming about maybe 5 acres of it or less. We'd like to farm the rest of it. We think we have another probably 15 acres that's farmable there. And we'd like to expand, and we'd really like to build up our berry business. And to do that, we kind of need to build a commercial kitchen on site.
Yeah.
It's great that the churches are allowing us to use it and everything, but it'd be better if we could train. Then we could train people on it. We only have access to these kitchens on a very limited time frame, and we're thankful for that. But if we could do it on site, and we wouldn't lose all that time in transition, and we'd be able to train people on it on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And we want to ramp up our jam production so that we can get to the point where we can go to like a Wegmans and say we'll sell you 2,000 cases of jam or 5,000 cases of jam or something like that. Because I'd like to bring more revenue through the door.
Absolutely.
This is the first nonprofit I've ever had.
Absolutely.
Always had for-profit businesses, so it's a little odd.
Even nonprofit, I say always, it's a business.
It is.
You always have to think, okay, how is that any idea or anything I can do like to bring more revenue? That's what it is about.
Exactly.
Yeah. Especially with you have also expenses.
Yes.
Of expenses too. I mean, employees and
2/3 of our budget is payroll because our mission is to employ. So I mean, we're happy with that number. We're employing a lot of people, but it's a lot of money to raise every year. And to me, I look at models out there. You become a victim of your own success because as I'm adding more and more people, my payroll's mushrooming.
I know.
And
Tell me about it.
And then that's more and more money that I have to raise. So I'd like to bring more revenue through the door and sales. For every dollar I can get selling jam is a dollar I don't have to raise from the community, right? So I feel like we're a good investment because we're really trying to change our economics ourselves. We're trying to build ourselves into a more resilient and a more self-funded enterprise.
Yeah,
and
that was one of the questions. I'll be curious to see. Financially, do you depend more on grants, or do you get also, you have donors?
So we have kind of an interesting mix. So we are about 45% individual donors, and about maybe 35% grants. That number varies a little bit, so it can be anywhere from 40-40. Right now we're about 45 in donors and about 35 in grants, but a lot of times it's about 40-40. And then probably 10 to 15% is brought in by sales of product.
Okay.
And I want to increase that number a lot.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and I think this will help if you build the
yes, commercial kitchen. We'll be able to ramp up our production on the jams and jellies, because that's a shelf-stable product. It's not like the problem with vegetables when you're growing vegetables is you have them the season. If you have too many of them, and the market's flooded with that, then you don't get a very good price for it. And so this is a value-added product. And it's also shelf stable, and something we can produce in the winter, which I love.
Absolutely,
because it
when
mitigates
you
our
can be
seasonality.
outside,
Yes.
you can work on inside.
Yeah, we're always looking for things we can do, during the very cold weather months, and so that's where our focus is, and I want to build that part.
Yeah, Greg, I'm so impressed of your passion. I can see it. I can probably talk with you for hours and hours because I can see it in your heart and your passion about everything you do. But tell me where you think you want to be in 5 years.
So that's strangely that's an easy question for me because I think it's important in life to sort of set a marker somewhere, and sometimes you look at maybe somebody else's accomplishments and you say, okay, well, that's your North Star, right? So Paul Newman started an organization called Newman's Own, which most people are familiar with, and the very first thing he made was salad dressing. So he made salad dressing for his friends.
Oh, wow.
Started out coming to his house and they're like, oh, the salad dressing is amazing. Like, where'd you get it? And he's like, I made it. So many people liked it and wanted the recipe that he got the idea. He said, oh, maybe I could sell this. But he's Paul Newman, so he didn't really need the money, and he was a pretty family-oriented guy. And so he decided he would create this enterprise just to fund these children's charities that he liked. So there are 4 children's charities, and Newman's Own, they started with salad dressing, but now they make everything. They make pasta sauce, they make pizzas, they brand extend into all kinds of different products. But in the last 10 years, they raised $650 million for 4 children's charities. So I believe in our brand and our logo and our puns.
Yes.
We like our puns. We have a lot of funny
and thank
t-shirts.
you for wearing the shirt today.
We're in a very serious business, but we don't like to take ourselves too seriously. We still like to have fun with what we're doing, and we still want to instill that in our workers. We sometimes we take them bowling, or sometimes we do fun things just for the sake of having fun. But we believe that that's a model we would like to emulate. So we want to. Part of the reason we want to ramp up our jam business is we want to get to the point where we want to create a brand, and if we can create a strong enough brand, this need is not just in the Loudoun County, it's all over the world, and certainly all over the United States. And
so are you thinking to franchise?
I'd like to franchise.
All right,
yes.
that's what I want to hear.
Yes, eventually I would like to franchise. I want to build the best mousetrap I can, and then I want to be able to go, because there's a lot of especially a lot of special needs parents out there who are looking at their kids saying, gee, I wonder what he's going to do when he ages out of the school system, which is what our thought was, and many parents, they want their kids to be doing something useful, and I certainly do. I mean, and I think it's important. And like I said, it also helps prevent them from being socially isolated. So if we can build this to a point where it's franchisable, we'd like to do that, and that's my 5-year plan. I'm going to be 63 September 1st, and I'm hoping that God willing, I get another 10 years, and so I got 10 years to make this happen, and I'm pretty bullish on my.
Maybe more of 10.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah,
hopefully.
We're staying positive.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
How the audience right now who are hearing us today, how can we get involved and how can we help you?
Well, as most nonprofits will tell you, it's the three T's, right? It's time, talent, treasure, or all of the above, right? And so if you have more time than money, you can volunteer to help. We love volunteers. You can find us at Loudoun Cares, so you can go to our website, and our website is www.afarmlessordinary.org. That's afarmlessordinary.org. It's an unusual name. comes from the fact that my wife and I thought we would have a pretty ordinary city life, and then we were thrown a curveball called
And
autism.
this is how it comes, the
This is
title?
how that's how it
Far
came.
less
The far less ordinary,
That's
because we thought that we would have, our life would be, we jokingly said, well, I guess our life is going to be a lot less ordinary than we thought it would be, like as we had predicted, because we got the curveball of autism, and like all things in life, it's what you make of it, and I think, we've built a great organization that I'm super proud of.
Absolutely.
And I'm super proud of our employees. They're amazing. And but anyway, so it's www.afarmlessornia.org. You can find on there, I mentioned time, talent, treasure. So if you have more time than money and you want to volunteer some time, you can volunteer to work at the farm. You can also if you have unique skills, like if you're a master gardener and you want to take a look at our operation and give us some pointers, we love input. If you have some other mad skills that you think we could use, we'd love to see that. If you have talents that we could use, and then the treasure, of course, we love donations because we literally survive on them. Without the generosity of this community, we couldn't do what we do, and we're super thankful. It also feels great to get money from people in your community because it feels like they're endorsing what you do, and we feel like we're doing a good thing. And we also feel like we're a good investment. We think we're a good use of a dollar, because if you think about the alternative for a lot of these folks, they would be in day programs, which actually cost money. Instead of them making money, they'd be paying money for day programs and things like that. And so it's actually a more efficient use of capital in my mind. And I believe in work. I think work is important, and I gave you the fish analogy. I think there's a lot of truth to that. So those things, so donations, volunteering, those are the kinds of things that can help us. If you know of like family foundations or something that maybe we don't know about, or you can point us in the right direction, we would love that, because we are looking to expand. We have pretty ambitious plans, but we've grown carefully over the years. I've never had to lay anybody off, knock on wood. I'm superstitious, knock on wood. And I'd like to keep it that way. So right now, we've instituted something kind of new, which is cool. You mentioned other programs. The house on the property that we are renting, we rent the house out to an organization where they're providing applied behavior analysis, which is a treatment for autism, also occupational therapy, which a lot of kids on the spectrum, and also OT, occupational therapists. A lot of people who are using who have intellectual developmental disabilities, they use occupational therapists to help them with their movement and to help them regulate themselves. So that's available. We partner with Shenandoah University. They have an occupational therapy program. So we partner, and the students come in and they analyze what we're doing on the farm, and they try to give us better ways to do it. So those kinds of things are new, and we want to sort of fund them to build them into bigger things that we think. But right now, our primary focus is kind of funding to try to acquire the farm and to build a commercial kitchen. And that's not a small number. It'll probably be about $2 million that we'll need to raise for that. But it will make us much more self-sufficient, and it'll make us much closer to my little model, my Paul Newman model, right? Where I'll be able to bring more revenue through the door. So ultimately, an investment now means that we have to ask for less later.
Yeah.
And that's super important.
And also, it will come to say big thank you to you, because also you're helping disability children.
Yes.
That's hard.
Yes.
That's hard.
Yes.
And to be around them every day and help them in development, this is a huge, I just want to say to you and Maya, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Really
helping them.
that.
Thank you for being a good model
Thank you.
in the community. We appreciate everything you do.
Thank you very much, Natasha.
Yeah, and I can see the passion already on you, and I think your dream gonna come true. I think you'll be franchising, and I don't know what will happen. I'm franchised too now, so I don't know. I might, think about buying another franchise. I don't know what I'm gonna do in 5 years.
Exactly. In 5 years, you
We don't
have
know.
one of our franchises. Well,
we don't know. Good luck to you. Good luck.
And thank you for what you do in the community, because you do a lot.
And I'm sure I will be bringing you again to see where are you at.
Excellent.
And
Well, thank you.
we will share the website and everything, and also we hope we'll see you on September 13th.
Yes, September 13th, Feast in the Field. Please buy tickets. It's a really wonderful event.
And for the business
Signature
owner sponsor, that would
Yes,
be great.
business owners who would like to sponsor. It's a really, of course, course, I'm paid to say this, right? But it is a really wonderful and unique event, and everybody who's come has usually returned if they could, schedule allowing. And it's beautiful, and the food is fantastic, and money goes to support a really terrific cause. If I do say so myself.
And thank you again, Greg, today for your time.
Thank you,
Thank you, and thank you
for all you do, because you do a lot of amazing
Thank
stuff.
you.
So.